An entire generation of moms and dads in Swaziland has been devastated by HIV, AIDS, and TB, leaving thousands of orphaned children in the care of their grandparents. These same children face the risk of being orphaned twice due to preventable blindness. Nearly 6,000 people, largely grandparents in Swaziland, are blind from inadequate eye care. The Luke Commission and Christian Blind Mission Canada have joined forces to provide eye care to the children of Swaziland and their caregivers. I'm joined by the founders of the Luke Commission, Dr. Harry and Echo VanderWal, and Ed Epp, the Executive Director of CBM Canada. Thank you guys so much for joining me.
Hi, Tim. Good morning.
Hi.
Harry and Echo, this is not your first time on the show. You've been here many times before, but just remind us a little bit about the Luke Commission and what you do.
The Luke Commission works in Southern Africa, in Swaziland, where, as we mentioned, has the highest HIV rate in the world. And initially, when we went to Swaziland, we walked into utter devastation. About 10 years ago, we started working in Swaziland, particularly in the rural areas, and we noticed right away that the parents were dying and leaving orphans. And so God called us to a ministry to prevent orphanhood, which means that we intersect with the parents before they die and get them on antiretrovirals. Of course, there were a lot of parents that died before and have died since. So there are still orphans that are left behind, and those orphans are now being cared for by their grandparents.
And that's kind of where CBM Canada comes in, right? Because these kids are being orphaned by HIV/AIDS, and then they're going into the care of their grandparents, and then they face this orphanhood possibility again. So how does CBM Canada combat that?
Well, one of the problems is it's usually the grandmothers, and they're going blind because of cataracts and other diseases, but primarily cataracts, which is a problem in North America as well. But you can get it treated for it in North America, and in Swaziland it's very difficult, especially in the rural areas. So CBM Canada wants to prevent blindness, and working with groups like the Luke Commission that are out there in the rural areas, the only group out there in the rural areas, that partnership can mean that so many people children can be helped because their grandparents can see.
Sure. And how did you guys partner and team up? How did that come about?
Well, it was one of those miracles.
That's right. Well, tell me about it. Tell me about the miracle. We all love a good miracle story.
Ed, go ahead.
Well, we were working with the government of Swaziland to look at a national eye care program, and the Luke Commission was invited to that meeting. And it took me about 10 seconds to say, we've got to partner with these people. I don't know how you can do rural eye care without a partner that is in the rural areas already doing healthcare, and the compatibility because of Christian organizations was there, and so it just was a natural for us to partner.
Sure. And was the Luke Commission already providing eye care treatment?
We provide basic eye care, but most of our focus has been on HIV, TB, and we have a comprehensive healthcare unit, so we also run an 11-bed surgical unit. There's about 24 medical services rolled out in every site that we service. Just over 3,000 medical services are delivered in any one day that we operate in a rural community. So the addition of a more extensive eye care program fits and overlays very well on what we're already doing. So it's an exciting partnership because many of the pieces are already in place, but CBM Canada coming alongside us and providing that infrastructure support and funding support will allow us to be able to use that platform that's already in place to do much more in the area of preventable blindness.
Okay, and so Harry, once you see a patient who is suffering from blindness or cataracts or whatever it may be, glaucoma, what's the process after you see that patient?
Well, it's quite a complex process because we're treating the rural areas. There's a lot of community outreach that has to be done to reach those people to come back for follow-ups and those things. So we have a great Swazi team that's in place already that can help us with all the cultural norms and cultural ways to get a hold of all the different people, make sure that they get the proper follow-up. And we're working with CBM Canada to help develop a deeper ophthalmology department so we can actually have proper eyeglasses on site, have proper autorefractors on site to be able to test people individually, and then be able to get the proper care through cataract surgery and those things. So it's a complex situation, but with the help and the training and those things that are available, it's going to be quite a great partnership. So we're excited.
Good. And you guys see about 800 patients a day, is that correct?
In the medical department, there's 800 patients, but that's just one department. There's 24 departments running simultaneously, so
a lot of patients.
a lot of patients, yeah.
So how many of those patients are suffering from inadequate eye care?
Well, it's one of the shocking things when you go out, you just don't see a pair of eyeglasses anywhere.
That's right.
And the country need is 90,000 pairs of eyeglasses a year. Currently, we distribute about 5,000, and government distributes about 1,000. So you can just see there's a disparity of about 85,000 eyeglasses that need to go out every year.
Wow.
I was out with them, and my wife's a teacher, and we both went out and went on the rural clinics. I think we saw 1,100 kids that day, or they did. They saw 1,100 kids. We didn't see one pair of glasses in any of those students.
Oh my
so you can imagine how many students are not achieving what they can achieve simply because they don't have glasses.
Sure, that's extremely disheartening.
Yep.
Can you kind of put a face on this for us? Do you have any personal stories that you can think of to share with us?
Sure. When I was there this summer, we met a woman named Bessie. She would be in her 60s, and a typical story. She had 7 grandkids and 4 great-grandkids that she was looking after because their parents had died. And she had gone blind from cataracts, and she said that she couldn't see. She had a hard time feeding. She was making mats to earn money, and she couldn't do that. After the cataract surgery, she could do all that again, and we visited her after the surgery, and she was teaching her great-grandkids how to make the mats, and they'd go to the market and sell it. But to me, the most telling thing is I asked, what else couldn't you do? And she said, I couldn't read to them. And so I followed up and asked, what do you like to read? And she said, the Bible. Wow. And I said, what's your favorite verse? And so she called her great-grandson there, and he went into the house, brought back her Bible, and she opened it on one of her mats. And they sat there, and she read her favorite verse, Isaiah, I think it's 19, verse 10. Do not be afraid, I am your God. And at that moment, I knew that this partnership was from God. I knew it before, but it was a confirmation. Do not be afraid, I am your God.
It's a blessing. Well, that's such an encouraging story, and I imagine that it's very difficult because you come across a lot of disheartening situations when you see these patients, and I'm sure that that kind of wages a spiritual warfare in your life. Yeah. How are you able to kind of fight that off?
It's tremendous to see the peace that God brings.
Absolutely.
Even when there's tremendous storm. And what Harry and I have recognized for the past 10 years is that once things are kind of out of your control, which a lot of the things are that we see, you move into a supernatural zone. And that supernatural zone is where God can work mightily. So you get used to not seeing the limit what appears in your human mind, but what God can do above and beyond what we could ever imagine. And so it's resting, but you don't rest without action. We still have faith and hope for the country of Swaziland that there will be tremendous improvement after the crisis, the really deep crisis of HIV. And so through that faith, we take the next step and do what we can, but understand that we're working only through the supernatural hand of God.
Right. And you guys, your 2 ministries are all about loving Jesus. That's right. And how are you able to kind of disciple and share the gospel with the patients that you come across?
Well, it happens naturally at Luke Commission. We automatically have a system already set up that as a patient comes through the natural process, there is a spiritual department that each patient goes through, and they're prayed with, and the Bible's read, and they're given a chance to accept Christ if they're willing at that point. Nothing's forced. It's all on a volunteer basis. And so that's already part of the process. And in Africa, it's really impossible to separate the spiritual side from the physical side. So as we are there giving comprehensive health care, if we miss the spiritual side, we're going to miss a huge part of truly impacting their health. And so it's a natural process to have the prayer with the medications. And in fact, after patients are treated at Luke Commission, they always say our medicine's so much stronger than the other medicines they receive in other hospitals and clinics. And it's the same medicine. There's nothing different about our medicine. And we ask the patients, why do you think it's stronger? What makes it stronger? And they say, it's because you prayed for me before I got my medicine. So again, the spiritual side is huge, and it's already in place. People are prayed with, they're given tracts. I mean, it's all there, and we have a great team that does that. So this is just an additional part as we are able to give eye care and be able to, again, give help to disabled. it again shakes the whole spiritual foundation of what people believe is about disabilities, about blindness. Why are people blind? They're cursed. Well, no, it's not that necessarily at all. And we can give help and healing, and that shakes up the whole spiritual side of what they believe in that country. So it's a blessing.
It is a blessing, and it's encouraging to you guys, I'm sure, because it makes you realize that what you're doing is actually making a huge difference. And that's really encouraging. U.S. and Canadians donated quite a bit of money to help the Luke Commission start the Miracle Campus, 30 acres of land. Tell me about the Miracle Campus.
Miracle Campus is exciting because it gives us a base of operations. Much of what we do, we treated over 50,000 patients in 2014, and so the logistical backbone has to be very robust in order to support that kind of execution, and so the Miracle Campus gives us that base of operations to launch from. In addition, God has called us many years ago to replicate the model, and so we are the first team for replication, which will move us then to 2 teams in Swaziland, is about halfway through the training process, which is a 24-month process. So it gives us a training facility to train the next team. After the team in Swaziland, we are in the process of scouting in other Southern African countries to find teams that we can bring to Swaziland and use that as the center of excellence when it comes to training on this model. But beyond that, CBM Canada is going to fund a surgical center that will be built on that Miracle Campus, and that will allow us to be able to address more of those critical care problems that we find, as well as the cataract surgeries that are found in the field. So the exciting thing about the partnership with CBM Canada is they understand that the comprehensive platform was what gives us a voice when it comes to eye care, and so we can't disconnect from the platform. So we're encouraged about that, because eye care standing alone doesn't do it, disability care standing alone doesn't do it, the doctor alone standing doesn't do it, spiritual care standing alone, but treating the total man, the whole man, of which eye care is a huge component. Sure. And the exciting thing about eye care is it builds bridges. And so someone who maybe wouldn't come for HIV care and treatment will come for eye care, and in the process of intersecting with them in the area of eye care and blindness, you're able to ask them to test, and they'll test because you build a relationship on something else. So eye care is powerful in that way.
Absolutely. Well, really quickly, we're just about out of time. What is your hope for the future with this partnership?
I hope that the love of Jesus will shine through to so many more people.
Great. Well, I appreciate you guys joining us. I thank you for your service in Swaziland, and we will be praying for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.